Hey y'all,
What's going on, guys?
I'm Jay,
I'm Chris the Bird Nerd.
and we
We are
are
the
the
Birdbrains.
Birdbrains.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
It's good to see everyone. It's been a while, hasn't it, Jay?
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where we've both been traveling, both been super busy. Had some family stuff go on. It was a couple weeks ago, it was my birthday, and then a week after that, it's my wife's birthday. And then, I don't know, it gets crazy.
I hear you,
One
man.
kid gets sick, and then another kid gets sick. And the
I
next thing you
was
know, it's been a week.
I was sick all last week. It's still kind of congested. Still trying to get the sinus cleared up. But yeah, it's been going through our family these last couple weeks as well.
Gotta love the fall. All the kids come back from wherever they were and go to school, and everybody gets sick.
Uh-huh. Yep. You
Yeah, I
got to make the rounds.
used to think I had a good immune system. Then I had children.
I know, right? It's like
Jokes
I
on me.
I feel like I don't get sick that often, but it's like when I get sick, I'm really sick. It's like kick kicks me down for a week or two, but
Well, it's like the joke about like men, right? Like get shot in the action movie, and you're like, doesn't matter, I can keep going. And then like head cold, and it's like I'm dying.
yeah, you get the
But
man
it's
cold and it puts you
but
out.
it's true. It's true. When I broke my leg, I was just like, I'm hurt. When I have a sinus infection,
Oh,
I'm dead.
it
You know,
knocks you out.
just the way it goes. It was a
It
fun part
does.
of getting old.
And I'm sure our wives would agree 100%.
Yeah, yeah. We got to get them on the podcast soon. That's got to
Yeah,
happen.
we do. I'm still trying to commit. My wife will do it, but she's hesitant. She's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to talk on your podcast. I'm like, yeah, you'll be good. So we'll get her on there. So,
We do also we talked about that live podcast. We haven't talked about it
oh
more.
yeah,
We've got to maybe got to do that here pretty soon.
I
So
I think we do. Yeah,
we got to figure
maybe
that out.
maybe hopefully we'll get a free Saturday or two here in the next few weeks. Maybe we can try and knock something out.
Well, for my birthday, my wife gave me an awesome gift. You'll really appreciate this, Chris. It's three coupons, and it's just screw it. I'm going to the birdcage. So for the rest of the day, I can just say like, "This is your problem. I'm birds for the rest of the day." So maybe I'll have to plunk one of those down on a
I love
live
that.
podcast. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
we need to bring that up when our wives come on the podcast. Maybe give my wife a couple ideas or two.
Hey, by the way,
Yeah. You
yeah,
might just
that's
have to have
funny.
it like sitting on your couch and be like, yeah, look at my birthday present that my wife gave me. Yeah, have to
That's a
make it
good
happen.
idea. That's funny. We should just subtly plant the idea for her too.
I usually on Saturdays I try to clean my bird cage out, usually Saturdays or Sundays, and but when I do it, I try to get up early in the morning before the rest of the family because I mean, I like to take my time. I like to try and clean it as good as I can, and it takes 2 to 3 hours if I'm really, cleaning and going through and sanitizing and so to keep my wife from being grumpy, I try to do it really early in the morning. So by the time I'm done with cleaning the birds, they've been awake for like an hour, and then I can go back in the house and be like, yeah, we're good. I can hang out with you for the rest of the day, and she doesn't get too grumpy at me.
That's hard for me during the breeding season though, because it messes up my egg food schedule. I feel like the birds
Yeah,
want to wake up and eat and feed their kids. But
that's true. Yeah.
so no, I normally I do it on Saturday afternoon or midday, but during college football season, I don't really want to do it on Saturday. So I do some in the morning before church on Sunday, and the rest after church is usually how it works out. And it was better when our kids used to take naps, but we've lost the nap battle. So
Yeah.
um, now
Kids
it's just
kids are getting older, man.
yeah, it's just well, and like I mean, my 2-year-old he should still nap, but he was the first one to just be like, I don't nap now. And we were just like, all right, well, darn, you know.
My youngest, he's 4 years old, and he's starting to become a night owl. My wife is pretty good on a schedule, and by 8 o'clock, our kids are, you know, 7:45, they're brushing teeth, getting jammies on. By 8 to 8:15, they're in bed, and we read stories with them and stuff like that, and put them in bed. But man, my youngest, he like hits a second wind, and he doesn't take naps anymore. But I mean, he'll legit like play with a in his bed with a toy or a pillow till like 9:30. I don't know how or where he gets this energy from. He usually leaves us alone. He'll just sit in his bed, so I'm
Mhm.
okay with it. But he just goes and goes, and then 7 o'clock in the morning, he's up on a dime every time. It's
I
crazy.
would pay an enormous amount of money for my kids to sleep till 7. I'm lucky if it's 5:30 and there's not at least one trying to crawl in the bed. I don't know what it is, and it feels like the later you keep them up, the earlier they wake up
Yeah,
too.
yep.
I don't know. I'm worse at parenting than I am at birds.
I
Um,
know, right? Yeah, I
Still
hear you on
trying to
that one.
figure out parenting. Pretty decent at birds. Can't figure out parenting. Um, Speaking of birds, we should probably talk about birds at some point in the bird podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So we're gonna do a species profile today. Um, I think, both of one of our favorite species. Definitely one of the most, I'd say, like unique of the Australian species. And you've had a lot of success with them to round out your year, Chris. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, we're gonna hit up and highlight the starfinches. We're gonna discuss the care, breeding, some techniques that have worked for us this year. Can be a tricky bird, and so we wanted to highlight them and share our knowledge that we've gained with the starfinches that we both own, and yeah, go from there. Highlight the starfinches.
You might say they're going to be the star of this podcast.
Ha But um.
The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains.
All right, before we do that, quick note. Thank you. Oh, I acquired a feather somehow, I guess from a pillow or something.
I was
That
gonna say
surprised me.
Einstein, but that's a white one.
No, that's not his. Yeah, that belonged to a goose. Um, so I've got it. You can't really see it on camera, but I've got a big stack of pillows here because my wife loves pillows. But anyway, uh, New Zealand, our sponsor. They're great. We've been talking to them a bunch this week, getting some
Yeah,
things finalized. We are getting very close to not just the Birdbrains perch box, which I'm really excited about, but also the one-stop shop. And so we thought we'd explain this because we've had a couple people kind of ask questions. So New Zealand is like a big pet supply company, and right now they've got their bird thing, but they're soon to have a reptile. They're trying to have kind of every category. So within the New Zealand website, there is Perchville, which is the bird area, and then so if you go on their main page, you can go down to click into Perchville, and that's where you can find all the supplies that you're looking for. So I think that's been a little confusing for some people. It's not our website; they sponsor us.
yeah,
I actually think the website's pretty cool. There's like training tips for big birds and some other stuff. We'll probably
yep,
have some finch stuff on there eventually as well. But here, very shortly, it's going to be your one-stop shop for like everything. We literally took a list of every single item that we use. Chris and I each made our own. We combined those lists, sent it to them, and they went after all of it. So
yeah.
pretty soon here shortly, that will be a very easy one-stop shop for everything Finch.
And I know they're working diligently, Jay, to get a lot of those products in. So some of them they're still waiting to come into their warehouse so that they can have them in stock. So keep going in every day. They're constantly uploading what they have in stock and whatnot, which is exciting. They sent us a big list, Jay, of things that different products and samples that we're going to start highlighting here in the near future, and show you guys, the benefits of them, and what you can get when you order the Bird Brains Perch Box or just other supplies that they have available on site. So I think it'll be really cool. And I forgot about the reptile piece. I might have to see if they can send me something for Spike, our bearded dragon, maybe branch out from the birds a little bit and highlight a few of the reptiles that we've owned over the years. So yeah, it'd
Yeah,
be good.
I'm reptile free at the moment, but it would really make my daughter happy if we were not reptile free. So I've always really wanted a chameleon. So that's
Yes.
sort of in the back of my mind that maybe that's
Get me a
I
panther
gotta
chameleon and I'll be a happy guy.
yeah, I gotta talk my wife into that. I'm I try to save those silver bullets. So if you're listening to
Yeah.
this, I love you, sweetheart. Um,
For sure.
but yeah, okay. Star finches. So they're from the Kimberley region, which is like central and central west, north central and northwest Australia. You can Google it. There's like a national park in there, and you've got quite a few species from up in there. I mean, that's where roughly that's where your shaft tails are. That's where your Gouldians are. Your
Yep.
Mascaras finches, your Parsons finches are kind of just to the right of that. I think diamond sparrows will be there. Quite a few, a bunch of your hookbills, quite a few species up there. Um, but stars are of all the ones that we commonly keep in captivity here, they are kind of their own thing. They're a little bit or a lot of it different from all those other species.
Absolutely. And just to start off, the different types of stars. So your wild type of star, they're kind of a darker yellowish brownish in color
Like an
with
olive color, maybe.
yeah, kind of like an olive color, and then with a red mask. Your males have more red on their face. Your wild type female starfinches have very little red surrounding kind of the beak surface area on their face. In captivity, they've been able to breed a lot more of the color into the females, so you can get some females that have a decent amount of color. I've got a couple females in my aviary that look pretty good. And sometimes when they're young, you're like, okay, is that one a male or is that one a female? So in captivity, we've got quite a few
Oh, and
different.
white spots.
Oh yes, yep, and they've got these white spots throughout their chest and kind of on the flanks. I think that's where the star comes in, and then some white specks throughout the mask on the males, which I think are beautiful. I think they really are a stunning bird. Those males, when they're in breeding condition, they
Yeah, I would
really
say
shine. They pop out
one of the prettiest birds for sure.
yeah, absolutely. In captivity, they've gotten a few different color mutations. So you've got your wild type red face, you got your wild type yellow face. You've got yellow bodied, so their body feathers are more of a yellow color, and there's different variations and shades in those.
Hmm.
I have a pair of yellow bodies that are really bright and yellow, and then I've got another pair that's like kind of in between that. So you can get the red face, yellow face of the yellow body type. I have seen all white stars with the facial colors. I've seen pied stars with the red and yellow face. I'm trying to think, am I missing any um, body types? I think that's the majority of what's around in captivity in the U.S. and
Yeah,
throughout the world. But yeah, they are a unique species, Jay. I think they've got some similarities to like the shaft tails and whatnot. They feel like they're an okay hardy bird. They don't mind going out in the cold. Like when I in the morning when I go out and feed my birds. Right now it's between 35 and 38 degrees in the morning time, and the stars are usually outside flying around and don't tend to mind the cold as much, but I wouldn't say they're as cold hardy as like your shaft tails or your zebra finches. They would prefer the warmer areas, similar to the Goulians. Seed eating bird, not as picky on trying egg foods or insects, things like that. Very active, entertaining, energetic birds,
hmm,
and I would say very calm. They don't bother other birds it, during breeding time or out of breeding time. I feel like they're a very passive species. From what I've seen, they will do well in colony settings. I prefer
yeah,
mine better in pairs when I'm trying to breed because they seem to be a little bit more on the social aspect and kind of hop through nests when they have multiple pairs together. So that's something that I've seen over the years of keeping the starfinches.
Yeah, I was gonna say that to me that yeah, I think the same hardiness level as Gouldians is about right. So like tougher than your Africans, but
Yeah,
not as tough as some of your other Australians, like your zebras or your shaft tails that are pretty rock solid birds. And yeah, I think yeah, super like serene is maybe the word that comes to
yeah,
mind. Like they're generally like pretty unbothered. They don't really spook. They're generally just a very relaxed demeanor. They don't sit around as much as your Gouldians do. They
yeah.
definitely
They're
move around
active.
more than that, and they will flock. So
Yeah.
I've got two pairs, and I often see all four together. So they do flock, and I believe in the wild they'll flock with Gouldians and shaft tails
Uh-huh.
too.
Yeah, I've seen quite a
Which
few like wild pictures of birds in the wild, and there's all of those species hanging around water holes together and things like that.
yeah, when we say shaft tail, by the way, for the people in other countries, shaft tails are one of those ones. So like in Australia, they're calling them long tails. There's a subspecies like the hex
Hmm.
long tail. So we're talking about long tails when we say shaft tail too. In the U.S., that's what we call them. You prefer to breed in cages?
Yeah, and I've tried both. So 2 years ago, I tried the aviary colony type with, I've got, at the time, I had 4 pairs of starfinches, and I tried the colony breeding, and I had them by themselves. So I didn't have them mixed in with any other species. And they bred for me, but it was only one pair. It was like the dominant pair that bred. And then they just kept nest hopping. After the one clutch, they kicked out 4 babies for me. And I didn't get anything the rest of the year. They laid tons of eggs, but just wouldn't sit on them consistently. So this year I tried the breeding in singular pairs and had some really good successes. Had a few failures at first. One things that I've realized with the starfinches, they like privacy. So the more privacy you can get them, the better. So the individual cages that I had set up for them, I put quite a few plants in there, especially around the opening of the nest box. And then they like to build their own nests. Like if they can, they would prefer to build their own nests in a plant than like when I had them in the colony setting, they built their nests on top of the nest boxes, which I thought was interesting. Um, so they really like to build. So I tried really hard to be strategic on where I put the nest box, put lots of plants around the opening of the nest box. I did put some cocoa fiber inside the nest box for them and then some outside. So they kind of finished building the nest for me in the box. They did a great job. So I had 6 pairs this year and all 6 of them bred for me. And at first, every
Wow,
single every single pair at first, all of them, their their first clutches died, and I'm like, what is going on? I don't understand what the deal was. And so once I had kind of put some more plants in there for them, and then figured out the food, so I'd been giving them egg food every day, and it still didn't seem to work for me at least, and this is just my experience. It may work for you guys if you're trying to breed starfinches. It may not, but the soaked seed was kind of the game changer for me. So on those second clutches, I gave them soaked seed every day with their egg food, and this is while they were sitting on the eggs, and then especially those first like 5 days. I went through 2 or 3 times a day if I could, and I replenished the egg food and the soaked seed especially, and that seemed to work. They all of them kicked out babies for me, and I had a couple clutches that kicked out 3 to 4 chicks. I had a couple pairs that did 1 to 2 chicks. So kind of a wide range as far as how many chicks they had in the nest and how many they fledged. I have sent some of those starfinches out to other breeders
so
this year,
I've
and
got one
then
of them.
yeah, I kicked one out to Jay, and I've got, obviously I'm not shipping now because it's wintertime, but I've got 7 that I'm holding on to this winter, and then come in the springtime, I'll probably be shipping out a few of them. So if anyone's interested, I've got a couple people in line for some of them, but I'll still have a few extra. But yeah, so cage breeding was better for me, Jay. I was more successful at it, but you can do both. Like you said before, they are a colony species that I think they prefer to flock and to be together. They're more interactive. They love to build nests and have that kind of that community setting. for me, it just was better to put them in individual cages. I seem to have more success and I could control the outcomes a little bit better, and not having other pairs of stars trying to take over their nests or breed with them, etc. And so for me, it worked a little bit better.
Okay, what nest box did you use for them?
So I've done two nests. They've nested in wicker baskets for me. They've built their own on top of nest boxes. This year I did all preview nest box. I believe is the brand. But they're kind of the longer, skinnier ones. So not the tall square ones. So they have like the hole here, and then they can go inside of the nest box. So it's like the long ones.
Yeah,
Um,
I think of that as like the two-bedroom nest
yeah,
box.
yeah, and they really preferred that. Most of them built their nests on inside the back, so they kind of had like an entrance part of the nest, and the male would usually sit there while the female was sitting on the eggs, or vice versa, and then they kind of had their nest kind of hid back up in that compartment. Like I said, I really think the privacy piece is big. They are they're not skittish birds, but when it comes to nesting, they usually jump off their nests a lot easier. Like when I walk into the bird shed, half of my pairs would jump out really quick off of their eggs. So they tend to be a little bit lighter sitters, for the most part. And I found that if they kind of nested back inside that nest box and had those plants around it, they stayed in there a lot better for me as I was in feeding them or doing stuff in the bird shed.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, as a general rule, they're kind of known for like a don't nest check your stars type thing. Um, and that's been my experience. I haven't bred stars in a while. I've bred a bunch in the past, but um, in a future episode, we're going to talk about coccidiosis. I had a coccidiosis issue last year, 2 years ago, and lost most of my stars. So I've just for breeding season this year, I never really got. I started the year with just one hen. I'm now up to two pairs, but
Nice.
one of them's that young male you sent me, and this other pair I got from someone, and they were not in the best of health. So we spent some time kind of right about the time we got everybody maybe ready to. Well, the star you sent me is still too young, but the adults
Yeah.
about ready to breed. It was time to pull nest boxes. So that's how it goes. I'm hoping to tee them up and be very successful for next year.
And maybe
Um,
you'll have to send me a picture of the male I sent you, Jay. I'd love to see how he's coloring out, because I mean he really had no color when I sent him to you. He was very
yeah,
young.
he's really good looking now. I will send you a picture. He's singing, doing all the
Nice.
right stuff. Yeah, and they have a pretty little song.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
it's like it's a bunch of little high pitch, like tweet, 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 tweet. It's sort of like a, a canary song before they get going, like the little warm up
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
they start doing. That's kind of the star song, and it's quiet. You kind of have to listen, but they do that. They're really just a beautiful bird. As far as uh, the Australian birds, they're very unique looking. You know, a lot of the Australian birds kind of have like, well, the Gouldings are their own thing, but then you have a lot that kind of have these more solid, defined patterns, like patches type patterning,
Uh-huh.
like your shaft tails or your masked grass finches. Even like your Borks or your zebra finches, like the wild type zebra, they kind of have sort of defined colors, and stars being kind of all one solid color with the spots and everything. They're really unique, and one of my favorite things about them is they're very lizard-like.
Uh-huh.
Like they like to climb, and the way they kind of are shaped and move, it
Very
reminds me
much,
like the
yes.
the velociraptors from the
That
movie Jurassic
that is
Park.
an awesome analogy. I 100% agree with you on that one. I've Yeah, you sit there, and their eye pattern is a little bit different. They've kind of got like a
Yeah,
white ring around their eye, so it does kind of look a little prehistoric. So
yeah, they're one of those birds that I'm like, the scientists figuring out that dinosaurs became birds, like they didn't all die, right? Is like a relatively recent, like in our lifetimes type thing that they're figuring out, paleontology wise, like
uh-huh.
dinosaurs might have had feathers and all these things. And it's like, there's certain birds that I look at them and I'm like, how did you not? I mean, you can, like, I get why you can't look at a chicken and think, oh, that used to be a dinosaur, but like stars, you
Yeah.
look at them and you're like, okay, yeah, not that long ago, you were a reptile and you've made the leap, but they are. they're really an interesting bird, great community aviary bird. I mean, I'd a little bit probably on the getting on the more rare side. They are very difficult to breed. I definitely put them in
Yeah.
the difficult category for breeding. But a bird that I think I'd recommend to almost anybody. They're a great bird, great addition. If you're looking to get into the sort of the more intense bird game on the finch side of things, that's a good place to start.
And they add some unique colors to your aviary that you don't really get anywhere else. Your Goulian finches have a red head, but outside of that, there's no other Australian birds that look similar to the stars with the pattern of their face
Hmm.
colors, the body colors, the star patches or the dots that they have throughout. They really are a unique bird. A lot of fun, great in an aviary setting, great in individual pair settings. And yeah, if you're looking to kind of take your bird game to the next level, I would say stars would be something that would be a fun challenge and a good bird to keep. I feel like overall they're fairly immune to diseases. I kind of put them in that medium category, right? But definitely a fun bird to keep and have, and very rewarding, especially when they breed for you. So
Yeah, that's where I would say, if I had to like sum them up in a sentence, I'd say like pretty entertaining and like generally unlikely to cause problems, right? So
yeah,
that
yes.
that's a good review, right? There's not a lot of birds that can fit in all of those categories at the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
Behaviors of a society finch, super nice and kind, energetic, and then, colors along, similar to the Goulian finch as far as like the
mhm.
red face goes and things like that, and the different body colors that you can get. I would kind of put them in those categories.
Yeah, so very beautiful bird. I think we both, like we said at the beginning, both one of our favorites. Definitely a bird that if, I was talking to somebody who's like, well, I've kept zebras, I've kept societies, I want to kind of move up. That would stars would be on my short list.
Yeah, totally, for sure. And hit me up next spring. I'm sure I'll have a few extra that I'll be selling. So I know I've had some people that are on a list, but I'll have more birds available. So
And
reach
if they
out
were
to me.
going to hit you up, Chris, where would they do that?
Yeah, PM me on Instagram, BirdNerd4. That's the best place to get a hold of me. But I also am on Facebook and YouTube, and that's just Bird Nerd. You're welcome to drop comments and PM me on those. Try to get on there frequently to respond to people, and I usually will direct you back to Instagram, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. So, yeah, those are the best places to get a hold of me. Reach out, ask questions, see if I've got birds available. Loving to reach out to those in the US and be able to share the birds and the knowledge that I have. So thank you for reaching out. Jay, how can they get a hold of you?
I'm on YouTube, obviously, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and Threads, which sucks. The Javiary or the underscore Javiary and all these platforms. By the way, just wanted to, this is going to go up on Chris's channel. If you're only watching the podcast episodes on Chris's channel, you're missing half of them, or vice versa, right? So,
Right.
I think, have you done your playlist?
I have, yes.
Yeah. So we now have a playlist set up on both of our channels to where you can watch all the episodes kind of through chronologically or close to chronologically. So if you're thinking like, how come I'm only seeing even numbered episodes on Chris's channel? You're missing all the odd episodes, and we both have really interesting, good stuff. We have not divvied up the videos, so like all the good stuff's on one channel, all the bad stuff's on the other channel, or boring stuff or whatever. So it's a good mix throughout. So make sure that you're watching my channel and Chris's channel. At some point, we may make a dedicated channel, but for the meantime, for how we're doing it now, we're going to keep alternating back and forth. So if you want to get them all, you got to make sure you're watching both channels. So hit
Yes.
that subscribe button, hit the bell, find my channel, do the same.
And reach out to New Zealand.
Yeah, use code Birdbrains, 10% off.
Yes. 10% off.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, guys.